Hi, this is Rhonda, and today we are going to make pinto beans, and I'm going to do them refried bean style, except that I'm not going to actually fry the beans. I'm not going to use any oil to cook the beans. So I will show you how that goes. And I have a very large bag of beans, so I measured out 8 cups of beans, and I like to buy them in bulk because then I can just tape up the bag and then use them another time, and I don't always have to be buying bags of beans. So the first thing you have to do is actually sort through the beans. I'm going to move the camera down so you can get an idea of what I'm doing here. So I like to use a white plate because then I can see if there's any rocks. So what I'm looking for is any rocks or imperfections in the beans themselves. So I'm just going to scoop a few out at a time, and I like to use a white plate. And what I'm doing is I'm looking for any rocks or if the bean does just not look good. So I'm just going to kind of separate them out. You see, in this one, I'm just doing like 1/3 of a cup at a time. And then I'm going to just take my plate and I'm just going to put the beans into my very large pot that I have. It's been my experience over the years, if you don't use a large pot when making these beans, a lot of times what will happen is it overflows and then you have a very big mess on your hands. And believe me, I have dealt with that before, where it boils over and there's water and beans everywhere. So I'm just going to go through this very large measuring cup of beans, and I'll be back shortly. Okay, so I'm sorting through these beans, and these ones over here look fine. I'm pushing them forward, and then I come across a bean that looks like this. I am not going to put this in because I have a feeling it wouldn't taste very good. There's something not right with this bean. So if you find something not right with the bean, just set it aside. And then I'm going to go through the next bunch here. And like this one is very dark, so I'm not quite sure what's going on with that. It looks different. If it looks different than the rest of the beans, probably not a good idea as a general rule to put it in the pot. So the rest of these look fine. And I'm going to continue to go through these beans, and if I find one that looks bad, I'm going to show everybody. Okay, so I'm looking through these beans. I could tell when I poured them out, but there were a few I wasn't too happy with. I don't like the looks of this one. This one has like a little dent in there. This half one looks a little odd. And this one has a kind of an odd color to me. And there's another dented one. So I'm taking those out just to play it safe. The rest of these look great. I'm going to pour them in here, and I'll pour some more out. And I'm going to keep on searching for ones that have imperfections. So this particular bean almost looks like it didn't mature or something. I'm not quite sure what's going on with it, but it's not going to go in the pot either. Okay, so I only had to pull out a few beans, which is really nice because I got a bag of beans that says triple washed and gone through. But still, even though I didn't have to pull out a lot of beans, sometimes, and even in this giant bag that I've gotten, sometimes there will be rocks. I did not find a rock. I was kind of hoping I would just so I could show you. But I have literally pulled out rocks before from a bag of beans, even if it's been gone through and washed. So very important to look for rocks or beans that just don't quite look right. So we're going to go over to the stove, and I'm going to show you how I get the beans started. Okay, so we're over at the stove now, and what I'm going to do first, I put the very large pot that I'm using so it doesn't boil over, and I'm going to add water. Okay, I'm not going to go crazy on the amount of water I'm going to add. I'm just going to add about that much water, and I'm going to add a little bit of salt. I'm going to get this, I'm going to put the stove on high. I'm going to bring it to a rolling boil. Add some salt. I'm going to bring it to a rolling boil, And then I'm going to strain the beans. That way they're extra clean, and rinse them off again. And then I'm going to put them in fresh water, and I'll show you how I do that. If I would have done the soak method, which I thought about doing last night but got too busy, I would have went ahead and put the beans in here in the pot, and I would have soaked them all overnight, then rinsed them and put in fresh water. But since I did not do the soak method, I'm going to boil these for about 20 minutes. So as soon as it starts boiling, I'm going to set a timer. I'm going to do it for about 20 minutes till they get wrinkled, put in fresh water, fresh salt, and then go again. But I will show you the steps. So I'll be back shortly. Okay, so these have been boiling for about 20 minutes. I put a lid on it, and they're kind of starting to look a little wrinkly. So I'm going to go and strain them and then put new water in. We'll go over to the sink. Okay, so we're going to strain the beans. It's a very large pot. You might need someone to help. Strain them. Oh, there's my 20-minute timer going off. Rinse. Nope. Try not to get any in the sink. Sometimes that happens. Rinse these off a little, and then I'm going to take it back over to the stove. Okay, so I got my beans back in here, and then I'm going to add my water, about a little bit more than I did last time, because I don't want to run out of water. Now, one thing I don't add a lot of salt to stuff, but one thing I do add salt to is soup and beans for sure. So I am going to put a little bit of salt, not crazy. It is a lot of beans though. So added some salt, and then I'm going to bring this back to a rolling boil. After it starts to roll, I'm going to put my lid on like this. Notice it's not like this. It's like this. After it starts at a rolling boil, because if I put it like this, what usually happens to me personally is it starts to foam up, and then the water starts to come up and boil over the edge. And that's why I have a very, very large pot. Instead of a pot that barely works, I have a very large pot. So I'm going to cook these down for quite some time, a few hours probably, and then we'll check back. So this right now is on high. I'm going to wait till it boils, and I'll put the lid back on. Some people at this point, what you could do, if you did this early in the morning and you didn't have as many beans as I have right here, I'm wanting to have leftovers, so I'm doing a lot. Or if you were doing a party, you'd have a lot. After you do that first 20-minute boil to get them wrinkly and rinse them off even more, you could at that time put them into a crock pot. You can do that, but you just can't make a ton of beans in a crock pot. And I would have had to start very early this morning to do the crock pot method, because my crock pot is definitely a slow cooker. I have not had success personally with a pressure cooker in beans, but that's definitely worth a try. So I'm just going to let this go, and then we're going to check back when we're ready for the next step. Okay, occasionally, I'm going to turn off this fan so everybody can hear me. I have my fan going. Occasionally you need to be stirring, and then I realized, because I got busy, I better add some water. So I'm going to add some more water, and let me see where I'm at here. I need to make sure that the water is definitely covering the beans for sure, but we're getting very close, because if I take it to the side of the pan and I'm smashing, they're starting to smash, which is a really good thing. That means we're getting very close. So I'm just going to mix this up. I'm going to add a little bit more water. Okay, so I'm going to bring this to a boil again. Okay, don't want to do too much water, but definitely want to make sure you have enough so you don't have a problem. And I'm going to mix this up. And you do need to occasionally stir and check on it. I almost ran out because I got busy doing other things, but we're good. No burning, nothing sticking now. I'm mixing it up, no problem. So we are back to getting this to a rolling boil again. I'm going to cover it slightly like this. I'm leaving an air gap, and we will see you soon. Okay, time to check on these beans. It's been a while. It's been like about almost 3 hours. And everybody's stove is going to vary. So as you can see, the water itself is getting brown color, which is good. That means we're getting closer. And it's smushing very well on the side of the pot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this, I reduced it a little on the heat. I'm going to turn it back up. I'm going to uncover it, and I'm going to let this thicken up a little. And then we will check back in just a little bit, because I have a feeling it's going to happen pretty fast. So I will be back shortly to check on the beans with everybody. Okay, I wanted to show everybody how it looks when it's getting a little bit closer. In the meantime, I have reduced the heat. Important thing is to stir occasionally also, so that it doesn't burn to the bottom. So we're getting very close, and I want to give you an idea of what that means. So some of the beans are falling apart, and the liquid is starting to thicken up. So remember, we're trying to make it to be like refried bean consistency, like when you go out to eat and get refried beans. So if you were making something else, you wouldn't take the beans this far. If you were making chili, you wouldn't have the beans falling apart like this. But we want them to be like at the restaurant, those really delicious refried beans. So I'm going to keep on going just a little bit longer, but we're getting awfully close. Like I said, the beans are falling apart. The liquid the beans are in are thickening, and that's what you're going for. And you're stirring occasionally. I reduced the heat for now. It was going pretty fast earlier. So we will check back in just a little bit. We are getting extremely close to going to the next step. Okay, so I hope everybody can see this. So now it's really thickened up quite a bit, and it's almost like there's like a layer. It's thickened up quite a bit, and it's ready for the next step. So the next step, so I cook it, it's like getting really thick. So I'm going to stir this up really well. And at this point, if somebody wanted to go ahead and taste test it to decide if they had enough salt or not, they could do that. I feel like I have enough salt because I'm going to add some cheese to it, which also has salt in it. So the next step is to take a potato masher. I'm going to mash this. So you don't want to use necessarily a non-stick pan, because sometimes potato masher would actually scratch the bottom. So this type of saucepan works actually better for doing this sort of thing. So I'm mashing it up, and it might take a little bit, and I'm just going to keep on doing it until we get the right consistency. But I turned the heat off, and it's getting quite a bit thicker. I'm stirring and mashing and stirring and mashing. Hope everybody's having a good day. I am having fun in the kitchen today. And a few different things. Making a mess, which is part of cooking. Okay, we are getting really, really close to the way it's supposed to look. And I'm going to put some in a bowl just in a minute so I can show you how it looks out of here, and then we're going to go to the next step of what my family likes. Okay, and in case you're wondering, it's been probably about 4 hours. And I'm making a lot of beans. I am definitely going to have leftovers. So if you were doing a smaller amount of beans, it's not going to take you as long. Okay, so that's looking correct. So now if somebody wanted to, I'm just going to scoop it into a bowl just so you can get the idea. So that looks, now I've used no oil or anything. I've just used, the only ingredients I have in here is pinto beans, water, and salt. That's it. And this is how it looks. So just like if you were going to a Mexican food restaurant, that's how it would look. So how I do it, instead of actually putting it, because some people will take it before it gets to this point and fry it in some lard or some oil, and then they call it refried beans. I don't do it that way. I used to years ago. This is, to me, a healthier way to do it. And so that's the refried beans. Now my daughter, who cannot have cheese, this would be it. This would be the finished product, and she would eat that with a tortilla or something, or some sort of chips that she can eat. She has a lot of allergies, so she only has special chips that she can eat. But so if you don't eat cheese, here it is. And this is totally vegetarian because it only has, again, pinto beans, water, and some, I put sea salt in, fine grain sea salt. And you could always add more salt if you'd like it. But the rest of the family that can eat cheese, we like to go ahead and add cheese, and I will show you how I do that. I'm going to go over to the counter just a second. Okay, so now I'm ready for the next step of my refried beans that aren't going to actually be fried. So what I do is I get a 9x13 casserole dish, and I'm going to put some of the beans that are still piping hot into the casserole, because the members of my family that can eat cheese, we kind of have a saying, everything tastes better with cheese. So we do use a lot of cheese. Now this particular cheese that I'm going to use is mild cheddar. Now some people like sharp cheddar, medium cheddar, the Kobe cheddar, or the, it's Monterey Jack, I think, mixed with cheddar. So whatever type of cheese, but this is, I use the mild. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go like this, add some cheese. And then I'm going to take my potato masher here and I'm going to mix it up even more. I think I'm going to use a spoon. This is pretty much ready. Do a spoon. Mix this up. It's been a crazy day in the kitchen. Been doing so many things. Actually, I'm filming today 2 videos at the same time. I could have done 3, but it just would have been too much chaos in the kitchen. So I just decided we'll just do the 2, I think. But the night is young, so you never know what I might end up doing. So I'm going to add more beans. Add more cheese. Okay, mix it up again. So this is why I personally don't need to add salt, because there is salt in cheese, and we don't eat things very salty, but as you saw in the beginning of the video, I added some salt. And see, the cheese is also making it thicken up. And cheese has oil in it, so I didn't need to fry my beans in oil, and I didn't really need to fry my beans in oil even if I was going to use them without cheese, because if you just cook the pinto beans long enough, they get that nice thick consistency. So this is enough for this tray. I still have plenty, but I'm just going to make this tray tonight, so I can always refrigerate the rest of these beans, add cheese to them later, or I can freeze these beans, because I've done that before, and then when I thaw them out, I can add cheese, pop it in the oven, and it's a big time saver because I made so many. If you're going to go to trouble, if you have freezer space, if you're going to go to the trouble to make the beans from scratch, you might want to make extra so that you can just go ahead and freeze the beans and have them for a different day. So I got plenty of cheese in the inside, and then what I like to do, because as I said, we love cheese in this house, the people in the house that can eat the cheese, and I'm going to add more cheese on top. And in the meantime, in case somebody's wondering, I preheated the oven to 350. Getting very close to being done. Just bear with me. I just kind of want to show you how it's going to look before I put it in the oven. Now, personally, I like these beans better than even the ones you get at the restaurant. Personally. And I love Mexican food. That is like my favorite food. Okay, so now it's ready to go and get popped in the oven. Okay, so the beans are in the oven. And we've had a crazy day today in the kitchen. My husband and my son went elk hunting, and so they got some wonderful meat. And there's so much meat, we don't even know what to do with it. But we went ahead earlier, and I couldn't film it all because it just would have been way too chaotic. We went ahead and made elk sausage over here. So that was happening. That's one thing that was going on. And my son said, "Hey, Mom, maybe you ought to cook some of the beef in the freezer so we have more room," because he has most of the meats at his house, because we didn't have any room here, even though we usually all eat together. So in the meantime, I guess I better grab a hot pad to show you the other thing I made, but I wasn't able to film because we were busy with the sausage, and it just would be just too much stuff going on. As it is, I did 2 videos today. We made, then this is just with beef from the grocery store. Took a couple of roasts, cooked it until it completely fell apart, and then I shredded it with gloves, and we put some of that red chili sauce in there, like I on my red chili sauce video. So we did that. So, and then I also have also filming on a separate video this delicious chicken over here, and that's on a different video. So things were crazy in the kitchen. We will check on the refried beans in just a little bit. Thank you. Okay, I'm still waiting on the beans, but this is what we are going to be eating with the beans tonight. So we will be checking on the beans shortly. Actually, we could probably check on the beans right now, just so I can show you kind of what the halfway point is. But that is the main course. Okay, I'm going to move the camera a little. We're going to walk over to the oven. Let's see. Whoa, okay. Not quite yet. Getting very close. We will see you soon. Okay, I am ready to pull the refried beans, or the non-fried pinto beans that look like refried beans. Okay. Bubbling up nicely. I'm going to adjust the camera so you can see what it looks like. And as soon as that cools off, I will taste test some. Okay, it is time to go ahead and test the refried beans. Very, very good. Let me show you something. So just with cooking them, look how thick they got. Now watch. See? Not runny. Nice and thick, delicious refried beans. Very, very good. One of my favorites. Thank you for watching. If you subscribe to my channel, thank you very much. And if you don't subscribe, please subscribe to my channel. It's been a fun day of cooking today, and have a great day, guys. Thank you.